for listeners who want to work on building this alter ego, I guess, what are the first things that they can do today at home to like practices, actual things that they can start doing to build this into their mind?
Step one, we don't build an alter ego for our entire life or our entire self, because there is no one self.
Right.
We have many roles that we play in life. There's context that we have. So I would just say, start with a role or an area of your life where you have the most resistance in. So it could be you're not pursuing things the way that you want to, or you're most challenged by right now. That could be being an entrepreneur. That could be being, a promoter of your business or your stuff, or a creator, like whatever the thing is. It could be mom, could be dad, whatever. So that's one. Let's pick one role. And then what is it about the way that you're currently showing up that you just don't like? So I'm procrastinating, I'm avoiding things, I'm not consistent, I don't discipline, or I'm not having fun with it, I'm not being creative enough with it. What are those things? That's all you have to do. We're not going deep. I'm not going to try to build a list of things just to beat you up, but just kind of, most people know top of mind what those things are. Great. Now let's flip that. Well, then what are the attributes and traits you'd like to have? Just like I was talking about before, about how I was not taking action. Right. So I needed to be decisive then, take more action. I was insecure. So I needed security or confidence then. And then I was sort of verbal vomit salad of just words that came out. I didn't articulate what I did well. So I wanted to be like Joseph Campbell. I wanted to be more articulate. So now those are the traits. Well, then the next part of that is who embodies them already? Is there anyone that you know that already has those things? Could be one person. Doesn't have to be a person. Could be an animal. Kobe Bryant, the Black Mamba. Could be just an idea. Beyonce had Sasha Fierce. That was something that she just invented. Name mixed with adjective, verb, whatever. In the book, I have like all these different templates for how you can name things. And that's the really fun part. So already, what am I doing? I'm leveraging the one thing that you and I have that nothing else on the planet can compete with. Our creative imagination. It is resistance cannot beat the creative imagination. We can talk about discipline. We can talk about stick-to-itiveness. Our superpower is our creative imagination. Our ability to reinvent new ideas and come up with really creative solutions to things. So I'm already honoring that by giving things names and being kind of more playful with this whole process. So what are the traits? Who or what might have it already? Could be a lion. Could be a donkey, which happens to be my favorite animal. Mm-hmm. And then we move to, all right, now what is a ritual that I can do to help bring these traits out of me? That's why I talk the importance of having a totem, an artifact, or a uniform, something that you can wear or have with you, or it could be a place. I've got people who've built alter egos that live in the chair because they're writers or they're creators in some way. And that alter ego lives in the chair, and they stop before they sit down in their chair and they see that idealized model of how they'd want to be. And they start to now there's a bridging between the chair and where they're standing. And there's this little bridge of energy that starts to pull them into it. And when they sit down, it's commitment. You are that thing. Wow. Then when you're in that moment, and by the way, do you need to be it for 18 hours a day? No, just momentum. If you can do it for 18 seconds, you know what you can do? 30. 30 can become a minute. A minute can become 2 phone calls with people to book speaking gigs. You just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people can become it immediately. I've seen people shift in the now because all of a sudden the idea just resonated and it just unlocked, and they just sort of let go of this former sense of what they thought they needed to be, and they became the new thing.
Yeah.
Again, it honors the idea that we can practice ourselves into anything. So again, that's that ritual. We can practice that. So
yeah, that's amazing.
What does feeling like you're a really good model in this case, Eileen, because you sort of embody, or you try and deliver that as much as possible, this kind of calm centeredness, the tone of your voice, right? So if someone's out there and they feel like they're just too loud, or they're just they're just angry with life, you can practice a voice of calm. Mm-hmm. And then you narrate your life. Like, when I wake up, I grab my glass of water and I take a sip. And then I go into the bathroom and I brush my teeth. You can like voice is a very, very powerful trigger.
You're saying voicing that character, that alter ego out loud.
Yeah. Well, narrating that model of how you're going to show up. Because again, it goes back to what I care about more is what are the attributes that you're trying to be leading through with this alter ego?
Yeah.
Because that's what's actually at our core. This is the way that I frame it, is there's no self that's there with me. What's at my core is if the universe is made up of energy, then really we're made of energy. How human beings translate this energy into reality is through actions, attributes, traits, behaviors. So what if at the core of us was just this big pool and soup of traits and attributes? And the point of the alter ego, or the model of us, is to kind of dig in, pull out these traits and go, hey, as a dad, for me, my source of inspiration for how I want to show up is Mr. Rogers and my own dad. Because here I am. I had before my first daughter came along, I had almost 20 years of working with some very big personalities with very strong egos, right? Like big sports stars, CEOs, leaders around the world. So a part of the avatar or the self that came into that role of coach and mentor was being a challenger, very much a challenger coach. That's the way that I kind of operate. So you think about that. 17 years, you're doing that. You're flexing that muscle every day for 8, 12, 15, 16 hours. I worked long hours, but I loved what I did. So whatever. I could start to believe that that's who I am. Oh, I'm a challenger.
Right. And then now that you have the dad role, you have to shift that.
I did.
Yeah.
Because if anyone has kids, you know that being a challenger, a lot of times you're just butting heads with your kids because they can be pretty stubborn. So, okay, well, now Mr. Rogers, no one would ever describe him as a challenger personality type.
No.
No one described my dad that way either. He was a rancher, kind of, rough hands, soft heart. And so I started to rewatch Mr. Rogers episodes before Molly came along, my oldest daughter. And I'm watching and I'm just seeing his attributes. He comes in down the stairs, hangs up his jacket, puts on his red cardigan, goes and sits down on the couch, takes off his outside shoes, deliberately puts on his, blue sneakers. And anytime he was talking to one of the kids on the show, he would always get down on his knee because he wanted to get eye level with them. And he would always soften his shoulders. If you ever watch, he would never, when you think about confidence, it's always like chest out, shoulders back, head up. He didn't do that with kids because what's that doing? That's dominating.
Yeah.
So he would soften his shoulders. So and people can't see, but I'm like, I bring my hands forward and I'd get down on my one knee and lean forward and like, hey, I get it. You're angry right now. You lower your voice. I practice that. And so does that mean I'm perfect with my kids? Of course not. Does that mean that I raise my voice sometimes? Of course it does. But if that makes me 25% better, that's a big difference to little kids.
Yeah. No, this is so powerful. And going back, there was one thing you said that it really resonated with me is just as a human being, if you are energy and you just think of, we are just a pool of potential energy, potential emotions, behaviors, attributes.
Yes.
It's just pull out what you want to pull out. You don't have to identify with one thing. I am not just this one thing. I can be so much more if you just open it up that way.
Yeah. If you just perceive yourself as like, hey, if there was just this blue ball of like globulous energy that's sitting somewhere in our gut area.
Yep.
And really what it's made up is like these words of like creative, confident, bold, articulate, brave, courageous. Like but we just don't reach in with like the current sense of who I am and grab them. We just sort of all collapse into an identity every morning and we act the same way. And all I'm encouraging people to do is like, what if we laid down a new track and we just practice that new track? Eventually you won't need to practice it anymore because it'll just be the way you are.
Yeah. And the fact that you can apply this to different roles in your life, right? As a business owner, I'm this way. As a mom, right. I'm this way. You get to choose.
Yeah. In preparation for this and, watching, a lot of your stuff, I kind of caught myself. I was just sitting here and I was just sort of like leaning on my desk here like I am right now. And I was just like, very relaxed, right? So that's a calm energy.
Yeah.
You're thinking about that. Like you shot that from where you're at, and that energy found its way through all the different pipes and satellites down, and it changed the way that I felt calmer.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That people can do that. And you're no different. And whoever's listening is no different than what you and I can be doing right now if it's resonating with someone.
Oh, totally. And I have to let everyone know I am not calm all the time, right? I'm generally—
Don't burst that bubble. Don't burst the bubble.
Right? I'm generally a pretty chill person. And yes, I lean towards that. But Lavendaire is a brand. Again, you can call it an alter ego, but it is a brand that I created where I intentionally wanted to show up as this gentle, compassionate, like, let's get into talk about the heart. I don't know. I had a vision. I'm more of a visual person. And I know how to create a vibe, right? With the colors and the sounds. Yeah. To me, I call it branding, but in the same way, you can brand yourself. It's similar. It's very similar.
The concepts, the principles are very much aligned. I'm just trying to give it to people as a useful tool to help transform how they see themselves.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that you're very practical. It's step by step. You just give so many tools. There is one other thing I want to talk to you about is your 90-day year program, because it's been so helpful for me to just be able to frame life in that way instead of planning like your New Year goals or I don't know. Can you give an overview of what the system is and how it can help people?
It came out of this. I was working with a baseball player. This goes very early on. And by the way, it's going to come back to like the entrepreneurial person that's here, but this is just where it was birthed. So baseball is a very long season. And when we were kind of looking at this person's career over a year, they always slumped in the middle. And because baseball is longer, he always started well and then finished strong. So I was like, well, let's just divide this up. Why don't we just have 2 seasons in a year? And all of a sudden, performance changed. So anytime these ideas would catch on, I'm like, okay, well, now I got to figure out why is this working so well?
Yeah.
And so I start to look into it. Well, it turns out that there's been a lot of studies around the idea of goals, projects, tasks that people are working on. And 90 days is about the horizon line to the motivational factor in human beings. The moment that you start to have a goal or a project that goes beyond 90 days, it creates procrastination and avoidant behavior. And then people all of a sudden cram at the end. So it started out with being 90-day sprint. And then it evolved into the name 90-day year. And my clients, who then went from being just athletes to then I'm working with entrepreneurs and leaders, the people who implemented the 90-day year would be achieving far more and staying a lot more focused on less things. So it's the combination of they're achieving more because they're closing a feedback loop more quickly. And they're also focused on less. Because what I would do with an athlete is I'm like, what's the one skill that if we worked on it over the course of the next 90 days would make all of the other skills improve or biggest impact? And so that's what happened. And then, so the same thing with an owner, entrepreneur, creator. I don't care what the name is. If you had one goal that you could achieve, you have one thing that you're going to focus on for the next 90 days, and every action, every project that you did aligned with that one goal, you have no idea how much impact that's going to make. And so inside of the actual system, I talk about, how to maybe not everything that you do can align to that one goal, but we would try to at least do 80-20. 80% of your stuff should align with that one goal. And it could be like growing audience for your podcast or getting sales in your business. Like that's my only goal, getting sales. Just to the person who's listening, like if let's say that was your goal and you only focused on activities that helped you get sales, of all the stuff that you've been trying to do the last week, 2 weeks, a month, what would be cut out off of your calendar? What would you not be doing because you just focused on this? You'd be like, okay, well, I wouldn't be trying to redesign my website because I really don't need it. I could use a Google document to send people to. Like there's all these assumptions that we make about things that we should be doing, need to be doing. So 90-day year is like a peak performance, high productivity system for basically people who are ambitious.